strook af.
Ja, ik kon er niet uitgisteren.
Wat zeg je, waarom kwam je niet nou?
Ik ga niet van bier. Ik kan niet tegen.
Ik ook niet. Ik heb ook geen niet tegen mij. Ook dat niet tegen.
Ja, ik heb wel weer een allergische reactie. Ja.
Ja.
Prettig, ja.
Maar dat geeft niet heel duidelijk. Wil je deze koffie? Ja, ja, ja. Maar ik moet inderdaad weten wat het is. Ja, doe het rustig. Ja, ja, ja. I'm getting really close.
Ah, yes, I know. Geen idee.
So what did you join the tour?
Of course.
Nee, ik heb er niet. Ik heb lekker zien.
Ja. Ja, ik zag dat er een treintje rond. Ja, dat is volgende jaar.
Ja, en dat is wat even geintjes.
En volgend jaar zijn we een jaar ouder, dus dat gaat nog makkelijker, hè?
Nou, sowieso in het ja. Hoe later het schoenen duwen later.
Ja.
Wie had een koffie uit de automaat gehaald?
Hoe is het nog bezig?
Hoezo?
De melk zat niet.
Oh, Sandra was bij.
Oh.
Dus dat was in die apparaat ernaast. En hij bent zelf bezig. Oh wel.
Ja, ja.
Jullie gisteren goed restaurant gevonden met een
Zijn wij Heinze geweest?
einde.
Eindelijk.
Eindelijk.
Ja. Oh, you weren't here to eat?
Is het?
Oh, yeah, it's here.
Ja. Zijn gemist.
En we zijn lekker biertje wezen drinken.
Ja.
What do you have?
Just economic coffee without. This is for you.
Wat moet ik drinken? Zo, dus we zijn niet in huis geweest. Ja, maar ongeveer.
Zullen we de andere daar proberen op lange dadelijk?
Op 10 ben je dik. Nou, we hebben niet zo heel veel zon vandaag, hoor, maar niet.
Sorry?
We hebben niet zo heel veel zon vandaag.
Nou, als ik daar zit, ik zie niks.
Ja, wat had je hier ook gedicht?
Waar is de thee? Trouwens gebruikt voor nog spijkers. Kan, op de eerste spijker.
Waar is de duct tape? Opwarm.
Young, and I'm the maintainer of Arkanoa's FAT32 driver. And I'm going to run through a little bit about how the driver works and some of the testing that was done in the development. Next slide. Okay. Maximum volume size is 2 terabytes, and that's OS2's limit. And the driver does support extended attributes. Probably not a great idea to turn them on because it's slow enough without them. And extended attributes can be pretty big, 2 gigabytes, which is really the file size limit. Don't try that though. Next slide.
Greg, may I ask?
Yeah.
ETA.
Wait, sorry.
As far as I know, ETA can't be bigger than 64K.
That's OS2's limit. FAT32's limit is the size of a file. So you really can't use them, but you could create one that large.
Can I have the mic? No, what I think you mean is that one extended attribute has a size limit of 64 kilobytes. This is just like on the FAT partition, it creates the EA data ASF, and that's limited to 2 gigs in size.
But, and these maximum.
Actually, that's not true either, Roderick. It creates a file for each file.
Really?
Yes.
As far as I understood, the total size of EAs.
You are correct.
64 for all the EAs on one file.
Yes, except that you can create them bigger than that. Trust me, I've done it. It's just they don't work as you would expect. The EAs on OS2 are a total mess. And
I agree.
whoever came up with them, or at least whoever came up with the system for programming them, no comment. But that's the situation.
I agree with you. I even made a program to look at them, but it is not easy, and there are some really strange things, but
Yes.
there we are.
In fact, in one of my later talks, we'll talk about another strange thing about EAs. So are we where I think we are? Okay. So FAT32 doesn't support swapper.dat. It doesn't support booting. It's really not a limitation of FAT32. It's a limitation of the kernel, which cannot read a FAT32 volume before the IFS is loaded, which you have to do, obviously, to boot from the media. While it supports long file names, it does not support them in DOS and WinOS2 sessions. Next slide. It doesn't support symlinks, and it does support undelete just the way other file systems do on OS2 by using a delete directory. You can also use the trash can in X Workplace to support undelete. Next slide. FAT32 stores file names and the rest of the data in the FAT in Unicode. All OS2 systems have a code page. So there's a translation facility within the cache, within cache 32, which is basically just the daemon, that translates between the current code page and the Unicode. So you need to be careful. If you change code pages on the fly, particularly if you change to, well, let's say code page 866 for Russian, from 850, which is English, and then you don't change the translation, you can really mess the FATs up because you'll end up with a bunch of really strange characters in them. It is probably not a problem if you stick to basic ASCII characters. In other words, no accented characters, no umlauts, nothing like that, just straight what would be English characters, because all the code pages have that core ASCII piece. But if you're using any special characters at all, you're going to get yourself in trouble. You can change the code page on the fly, but I'm guessing no one ever remembers to. Next slide. Again, I said that they support EAs. Unless you have a really, really special reason for needing that EA support, leave it off. That's how it comes by default, is with EA support off. It's a performance hit, and it's just one more thing that can corrupt the files and the FATs, because like in FAT, the EAs are really a kludge in FAT32. They're sort of an add-on, because the file system was never designed originally to support extended attributes. Next slide.
Question, Greg.
Yeah.
I thought on Windows you have EAs in FAT32 somehow?
Not to my knowledge.
Then maybe
I do not think Windows supports EAs in any file system.
And GFS does.
Well, it supports something like EAs, but they're not the same EAs that.
It's not the same structure. Agreed,
Yeah,
but
it's a different structure. Yeah, they support definitions or something like that. Yes, they do have an extended area where you can put more information about a file than just the file name, but it's, as far as I understand, it's not what we would consider an extended attribute.
There's no translation.
No.
Yeah. There's no translation.
but
Next
because,
year, come to wire you all up to a microphone, but never mind.
because we often use FAT32 just to get stuff from, for example, Windows into Arca and back again, and that's basically the only uniform standard we have as a file system. What happens then when you're going back and forth and it screws up?
The EAs are usually ignored by Windows. The OS2 FAT32 are normally ignored by Windows, but that's not guaranteed. Because really, Windows just sees it as another file, because that's how they're stored.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's not like in JFS, which it is part and parcel of the file. That's correct.
Right.
So that is how we, if you
Right,
like, sanitize it.
In JFS and HPFS, the file listing structure contains the EAs. But in FAT32, it's just a separate file. But Windows can see that file, and as such, you could mess them up. Okay, on with DOS and WinOS2 sessions. Obviously, they require 8.3 file names. The conversion is done simply by truncating the file name by as much as possible, following it by a tilde and then a number. So if you have 50 files that started with the same, say, 5 digits or 5 letters, you could have the tildes up to 50 plus, which of course is just wonderful for figuring out which file it is, but such is life. Next slide.
Great. Then the question, there is no, in fact, conversion in the fact of adding long file name, which is a standard EA, so that you would have the real file name.
Apparently it doesn't work. I have not tried it.
Okay.
And that was just the conversion continued. So if someone's really interested in it, we can look at it. Next file, or next slide. Undelete, as I said, you just have to set the Dell directory for that, for the FAT32 drive, and it works just like any other drive on OS2, where the thing you deleted is actually just moved to the Dell directory so it can be recovered. X Workplace's trash can works very similarly to the Dell directory, and it also works with a FAT32 volume. Next slide. These are the switches for the if statement, and you have auto check, which is pretty self-explanatory. It just runs check disk on anything that has a dirty flag set for it. The /EAS is the way you turn on EA support. In other words, it's off by default. Cache, the largest is 2048, and that's probably what you should run. The default actually is 1024. I should probably change that so that the default is 2048. And then EX, you can exclude drives from lazy write. If you have some drives that you don't mind using lazy write is where the cache holds information that has changed for a period of time before it writes it to disk, which obviously has a small danger of you losing that data, because if the power goes out before it writes, it's gone. This allows you to exclude some drives from lazy write. Removable drives, probably excluding them isn't a bad idea, because it doesn't tend to speed anything up, just risk data loss. Yeah.
Greg, there's been a lot of discussions, I seem to remember in the past, that cache doesn't really help.
That's actually untrue. I did some testing recently, same rsync run with cache, without cache, and it took about half the time with the cache.
Okay.
And so it actually made a pretty significant difference. Now, that said, there are probably drive type combinations and systems where your statement is true. In other words, it depends what the source is and what the target is as to how much the cache contributes. The test I was running was hard drive to hard drive. And so I didn't test it with removables.
Okay, I was going to ask, is there any truth table, if you like, which tells us what to avoid and what not?
Not really. I did find out one other thing, that increasing the number of read-ahead directories when you're using removables helps. It improves the throughput if you have more read-ahead when you're either writing or reading from a removable.
Okay.
Next slide. I guess I should look to see if I'm where I think I am. Then the /H you should probably always use. I should probably make it the default like I should with the cache size. It puts the cache in high memory. It's not true high memory, but it's the memory above 16 megabytes at the beginning, which has to do with the way the kernel loads. And that memory is very precious, and anything you can get out of it, you should get out of it. And you also have to have the command load high early or something, I don't remember the exact command, syntax in config.sys for it to work. Large files, Why not? It just gives you you can then save files up to 4 gigabytes. Quiet is self-explanatory. And this is read-ahead sectors. This is for all FAT32 drives. Next slide. Cache ifs 32 is the cache daemon. Obviously, you can display its help, and you can unload it. Q here means quit instead of quiet, just to be confusing. And you can also run the cache without starting the daemon. And there's a couple of reasons for doing that. One of them, I'm probably the only one that would run it for, is it provides all the current statistics on what the cache is doing. So if you're curious, you can run it that way. It also allows you can run it that way when you reset the code page, so that it doesn't try to reload the daemon, it just changes the code page and exits. Next slide. We then have 3 more settings, which are for lazy write. It tells the lazy write how long it should wait or could wait before writing the file to disk. Buffer idle is basically how long the cache itself is idle. Disk idle, I think, is self-explanatory. And max age is also pretty self-explanatory. Max age is as old as the information can be in the cache before you have to write it to disk. The other 2 are how long you should wait before you write it to disk. So it depends on how safe you want to be versus how long you're willing to wait with the new information in memory. In theory, making buffer idle, disk idle, and max age bigger should speed it up a little bit. In practice, I really don't know that that's true.
What's the measurement of those?
It's in milliseconds. And like I said, the order is buffer idle has to be smaller than disk idle, which has to be smaller than max age, which kind of makes sense. Next slide. Okay, this read ahead, the /R is to set read ahead for a single drive, which is the drive, the comma, and then the 3 ends are the number of sectors to read ahead. 128 is the maximum. You can do this for 1 drive. In other words, if you put a string on here that has 6 drives, it's only going to read the first one, because that's the way it is in the code. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's simply the way it is right now. If someone needed that string to be parsed farther, that could be added, but as it presently is written, it's just 1. If you were going to set that and this overrides the one set on the ifs file for the read-ahead sectors. So if you had 1 drive that reading ahead seemed to make it faster, this would be the place to set it. The truth is for tuning on this, you should just play around with these settings on your own system, because I have situations where I know it was faster on my system, and Doug Bissett, for example, will report back that it was slower on his. So it's going to be very system dependent. It's going to be drive type combination dependent. In other words, going from a JFS drive to a FAT32 drive is going to be different than going from a FAT32 drive to a FAT32 drive. So you just need to play with the settings and find what works best on your system.
Greg, for clarification, the slash R is for a specific drive.
Right.
The previous one, I forget what the exactly was.
I think it's also slash, it's slash RA sectors.
Okay, that applies to all drives.
Right.
So what's,
The default is 8 if you don't set anything.
yeah, but what I mean is, it seems as if, it's, well, why, if you've got for everything, why are you turning it then off and only adding it for one?
Oh, I'm not turning it off. It only overrides it for the single drive.
Okay, it's an addition.
Yeah,
I
it's an
thought it was-
addition.
Okay, then I
It
understand.
overrides it for the single drive.
Okay, then I understand.
Yeah, it doesn't turn it off for other drives. Then you can turn lazy write on and off, and again, that's something that's worth trying on your system, is to try turning it off and see what difference it makes. Because if it makes no performance difference, there's no point in having it on, because all it does is add a small amount of risk. And then here's slash S is silent mode instead of slash Q, just to make it a little more confusing. Next slide. You can set the priority of the cache, of the lazy writer. Don't set it above 2. All it does is stall out the workplace shell and stuff for no particularly good reason. It doesn't run any faster. In other words, the one thing that it might do is, obviously, if it can't get a thread at a given moment, it might overrun the max age setting that you have for the cache because it just can't run. But I've run it at /3 and /4, and it's just irritating. And then you can set the code page, as I said. Next slide. This one is useful if all of your FAT32 drives are removable and they're not plugged in, and they're never plugged in when you start. This forces the cache to load, because otherwise, if it doesn't find any FAT32 drives, it will simply exit.
Is that default?
Default is to exit, yeah.
No, I mean the /F.
No, you have to use it. And this is in config sys where you're originally loading it.
So in config sys, by default, it's /F.
Should be /F.
Should be.
Yeah, if you're using removables and you want the cache.
Not quite what I was trying to ask.
Okay.
In the default installation, if you like,
Yes, the default is /F.
and it's put in.
Yes.
Okay.
Next slide. Okay, there's also a program, UFAT32 DLL. This is the program that gives you check disk and format. And check disk is basically just the same syntax as for any of the other file systems. The older versions of FAT32 did not have check disk. Well, they did to a certain extent. They didn't have format, to be honest. This just works like I said. Any other disk runs the check disk on the FATs. F32 check.exe is also included. It's just simply the program that runs check disk at startup. Next slide. FAT32 has the current FAT32 is better than the old ones in that it doesn't give you the wonderful error message, your FATs don't work, tough luck. Basically, I think the message was you'll need to check disk this on a different operating system.
It won't say which one.
I'm not sure it said. I think it just said a different one. But I talked to Jan about it and asked him, you know, if the FATs don't match, what should you do? And I said, should you copy FAT1 over FAT2 or FAT2 over FAT1? And his answer was, since there is absolutely no way you could ever figure out which one is wrong, it doesn't matter. So I arbitrarily chose to copy FAT1 over FAT2 on the basis that FAT2 gets written second, and you figure if they got out of sync, it probably didn't get written while the first one did. Which gets rid of that error message. The rest of those things are pretty standard for what check disk does. And if you have one where check disk fails, it might be worthwhile trying to check disk on Windows. It might do a better job, might not, but it's probably worth a try. Next slide. Formatting, that was added with this driver from the original 9.13 driver that Hank did. It again is just like any other file system from a syntax standpoint. It uses the same format.com and PM format to do the formatting. The /p is, writes additional information for PM format to use and to report back. PM format will still just sit there and do nothing, even if it got told that it didn't work. So if it seems to be sitting there forever, this is running in the background. You could always flip to what's running in the background and see the error message that PM format ignored. Next slide. These are some of the oddities. FAT32 should technically not be used to format a drive smaller than 2 megabytes. Yeah, 2 megabytes or 2 gigabytes. What is the FAT limit? 2 gigabytes. Yeah, 2 gigabytes.
You use long. You said it's then 4.
No, this is the whole disk size for FAT. FAT can do a 2 gigabyte drive and that's it. So technically, the FAT32's description, Windows or Microsoft's description of FAT32 says that it should only be used for drives bigger than 2 gigabytes, and that if it's smaller than 2 gigabytes, it should be FAT. Now, the truth is I can format a drive of any size with this. So what ends up happening is because IBM's FAT doesn't understand the existence of FAT32. If you've formatted a floppy drive, FAT32, and then for whatever reason want to format it FAT, it fails because IBM's FAT thinks it is already FAT, because FAT32 looks very much like FAT. And so if you manage to do that, the only workaround is to reformat that drive JFS or something like that, and then reformat it FAT. And it's a limitation, the IBM kernel, that's never going to get fixed. And also, I'm not really sure why anybody would want to format a drive that small, anything. Again, if you have poor read-write performance, which you will, adjusting some of these parameters may help marginally. Next slide. If you can't mount a FAT32 volume, the most common reason is it was formatted FAT32 in Windows as a large floppy. OS2 doesn't understand a large floppy bigger than 2 gigabytes. And so if it's a 32 gigabyte large floppy formatted FAT32, OS2 can't read it. It's really not a limitation of the FAT32 driver, it's a limitation of the operating system. So you can obviously try reinserting it. Could have been inserted dirty. You could even try running check disk on it, because check disk will fail if it's a large floppy. But that's the most likely thing, is you've got something that was formatted on Windows that is not on partitioned media, which is required, or it doesn't have an LVM signature. The best thing really to do in those cases is to take the data off on the other operating system and then take it, partition it, and format it on OS2, and then transfer your data. Yes?
It's coming.
If you have an older computer which has only USB 2, you could try this USB stick from Lars instead of the Arkanoa USB stick. He has some fixes to simulate a partition if there is only a big floppy drive. So that might work under some circumstances, but
If you
there are other drawbacks by using Lars drivers, because he has only up to USB 2, and it is not compatible by just adding Arkanoa's USB 3 driver. That doesn't work. You have to switch the stack completely.
Yeah, that is true, that exists, but then you're going to have to completely reload your USB drivers. It's probably easier to reformat your drive.
If you want to get your data from the drive, then
It may be the only
it might
choice.
be
I
still
will
a
agree.
better option.
EAs are cranky on FAT32. So if you have a situation where you've enabled EAs and haven't, and they're not being written, try check disking the disk. Actually, the recommendation is that if you're going to switch, that you check disk before you switch, and then switch on all the drives that you're going to use. Next slide. If you see an error at startup, the overwhelmingly most likely cause is you've got a driver cache mismatch. That the driver and the cache are not from the same version, or even from different distributions completely. The easiest thing to do is just check your path to see what you have installed, and just make sure that they match. And just a little more on inserting a drive and it not cooperating. Next slide. If you get a linear address allocation failed, that almost certainly means you're trying to load it in that first 16 megabytes of RAM. You don't have the /H switch on, and there just isn't any memory to put it in. Next slide. The support, I mean, you can email me, or you can put in a ticket at Arkanoa. Probably better to put in a ticket. Okay, a little bit about how the drive was tested. There's a thing called stresstest.exe, which it's a stress test for both drives and network. I'm not going to talk about the network part because I don't know anything about the network part. David created the program. It does a few things to stress test the system, one of which is it enables all the CPUs and leaves them on through the entire test. So it simulates at least a 30% load on the CPUs during the test. Stress test suite D is actually the drives. And here's the test that it actually does. It does a simple read test, which it just keeps reading all the files and iterates the count after it's read it. It does a simple read-write test. And now, understand, these tests are all running simultaneously on the same drive. And it's the source material and the target material are all on that drive. So it does 2 simple read-write tests where they're simply just read-writing and verifying the data. And it's doing 2 of those simultaneous with the read test. And then it does 2 interleave copy tests, which are designed to fragment the disk deliberately. And they're doing 2 of those together, plus the CPUs being stressed at the same time. The object, so let's see, where am I? Next slide. Yeah, one more. Okay. So my object, when I took over the development of this, was to pass this stress, to be able to run this stress test for a prolonged period of time without an error. When I first started testing, which was pretty much the driver off of NetLabs, I had made a few changes to it, but not a lot. I could run this for maybe 4 or 5 minutes before it would start throwing errors. The current driver, the longest I've done it was about 14 hours without an error. To achieve this, I basically serialized fat access, which was putting semaphores riddled throughout the code to keep anything, to make everything wait its turn to get into the fat. Obviously, the level of performance here comes with a performance hit. The drive is naturally slower. I've done a lot of things. One, I've set, while the semaphores do timeout, they're not truly infinite wait. The timeout is set at 5 minutes. So I'm relatively confident that I don't have semaphores that are cross-locking, because I've never had a 5-minute stall on the drivers. Now, a couple of interesting things about it is that if I do the read-ahead cache, where I read all the sectors at once, I will throw stress test errors. If I do the read-ahead where I loop and just read one sector at a time, I can read the same number of total sectors. I do not throw those tests, those errors. Now, the truth is, the first one would be a little faster than the second one from a performance standpoint. And so kind of the question becomes, is what I've done overkill? In other words, have I slowed the driver down too much in favor of safety? I don't really have an answer to that question, except that I don't know what else I would do, because how long do I have to go without an error for it to be okay? Because obviously this stress test is not real world usage. In other words, you're not going to be running 5 copy read operations on the same drive simultaneously for a prolonged period of time. But FAT32, well, FAT itself is inherently not very safe. You know, the FATs, you have 2 copies. Nobody knows which one is right if they're not matching. So really no safety there. I get.
Those CRCs and
Where's the microphone?
No, the errors that I'm talking about, they're all verify errors, errors with the FAT not matching up with the segments not matching. It's all real errors. It's not media errors.
No, I meant there are no CRC checks.
Oh yeah, there are.
So you would then know which one should be right, because
There are no CSCs in the FAT32 table.
Not in the FAT, not in the FATs.
tables.
Not in the tables.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, no, they're not in the tables. On the drive there are, but not on the tables.
I mean, when you're talking about the new UAV file system, there they've added, which you didn't have with the standard primary files, primary partitions, you do have now in the new system. Sorry, I will try and speak better. I'll wake up. And in the new system, you have in more or less every item has a CRC check, so you know if the data in all the tables are correct, and you would then know probably, hopefully, which one is right. But there's nothing like that in there.
Nothing like that in FAT32. You've got to consider when FAT32 was first developed.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's just a kludge to extend FAT on top of it. So really, its safety is the same as basic FAT.
Yeah, I understand.
So no, there are no checks that would tell you which FAT is good.
Basically, I came up with an own acronym for myself for FAT, and it stands for Fragile Ancient Technology, because in my first days of OS2, when I had a dual boot with DOS and Warp 4, where you could switch back and forth, in some catastrophic moments where the system would, for example, trap or it would hang, and then you hit the reset button, and then check disk came along, and it converted a whole bunch of files into lost chained files.
Oh yeah.
And it also destroyed your EA data ASF. So the next time that it finished its check disk, you'd come to an OS2 desktop that could no longer load the extended attributes well and kiss your whole installation goodbye. So yeah, for external media usage, FAT32 can be used, but I wouldn't recommend any sort of FAT usage for any OS2 usage. JFS and HPFS, I think, are way more robust.
Oh yeah.
In surviving check disk problems.
Yeah, the only reason.
And as you described, if the main file index, either the first or the second copy goes kaput, which one do you pick? It's it's
I told you, you picked the first.
I know.
The truth is the only reason I have FAT32 hard drives is to develop the FAT32 driver. I would not have any if I was not developing it.
Actually, I do use a FAT32 partition. That's purely to exchange data between Windows and Arc OS.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's true, but I don't have Windows on the machine. A couple of other things that make the driver relatively slow. FAT32 is a 16-bit driver. It's not a 32-bit driver. So it has to thunk memory addresses. All that means is convert a 16-bit segment offset to a flat memory model so that the 32-bit side knows what the hell it's talking about. But again, anytime you're converting anything from one thing to another, it costs a little bit of computer processing. And so So that's one of the other things that makes FAT32 relatively slow compared to, say, JFS, which is a 32-bit driver. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
New Mexico State University shut down Hobbs last year. Apparently the guy that kept it alive retired and people no longer saw it as a viability. Nathan Woodruff, it's Nathan, right? He set up Hobbs Archive, but his server at home hosted on a he had an ISP in the United States, and the problem was that AI bots from China were marching over his server and getting him a bill monthly of around $600 to $800 a month for 8 terabyte of traffic on a private ISP line, which he couldn't afford. So that was shut down as well. Now, is it true, Martin, that AI was also used to create the code for the new Hobbs implementation, or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as far as I know, with Chinese Jason, he used some AI to create the site, and he also updated. So it is not that he just created the site with AI. He also understands the code that was created by the AI, so he updated also. So it's not like AI did everything and just posted there. No, he also understand it, and he also can update the stuff there. That is as far as I know. Yeah.
Well, take a look at the presentation from yesterday, because Keith did a presentation on AI programming on OS2 with some interesting tips, etc. But the floor is yours. Thanks for coming in from Ecuador, and then and thank you for helping to get a new Hobbs archive out of the ground. The floor is yours, Martin.
Thank you, Roderick. Okay, so well, I'm Martin Iturbide. I'm the OS2 World Newsmaster, and I also get involved in different kind of community projects. And this time I'm gonna talk a little bit about hubs. I already talked about this last year, but early on this year, there have been some changes. And let me see if this works. Okay, so this is the long story short. Hubs has been our OS2 files repository for several years, but as Roderick said, someone in the New Mexico University retired, and the people didn't want to keep on Hubs, and they retired. On April of 2025, they retired the site. So a new hubs were created, um, and all the files were migrated there on and the metadata was also migrated there, and the site started to get a high cost of the internet and the hosting provider. So since the site got hit very hard, I'm not sure if it was from China or from other sites, or from other places, that the bill starts raising up. So this new site were shut down, and we have to find like a new solution for this problem we're having. At that moment, on March of 2026, a new hubs was created by Jason Page, and on April of this year, the new hubs was announced as a beta, and is currently working since that day. Okay, so Jason Page offered to create a new hub scripts, and I jumped into the ship within a second because I needed the place. I needed to have an active site to upload files, not only as an archive, not only as a website with historic data. No, Hubs is alive. Hubs needs to have new uploads from our developers, and it receives new versions of software, of new software every time. So we collaborated to have like a site similar to the original hubs. It's not the same, but it's like similar. It has the same like feeling with the same colors. Um, Obviously, Jason likes like a more retro look, and well, I like it. I have no issues with that. And also to have a way to import the files and the metadata from some hubs backups that I have, and to be able to recover the two things, the files and also the metadata with information about the files, with information about the release dates, the authors of the software, etc. And also, Jason took the site a little bit further and included a lot of administrative tools to make it easy to collaborate. So on these hubs, we have several tools that we have. First, we have roles. We have like the initial role that is a collaborator that can upload files. Then we have an editor role and administration roles, and we have different tools according to the roles to make our life easier. Because on the first release of Hubs in the New Mexico University, we didn't have any kind of administrative tools. If you want to change just a little letter, a letter from the description, you have to re-upload the file and re-upload the metadata file, yeah, and wait for the process. Here we can edit the fields on the web page. We can change any description. We can save it, and nothing changed, and it doesn't impact you on the log of new uploaded files. Okay. So I wanted to show you the site a little bit. I will go to the live website. I don't know. Can you see my screen right? Okay. 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 So here we have the new hub site. I guess that you already saw it. And well, Jason included a way to increase the size of the fonts and decrease the site. It has like a limit. It's nice. It's not that I'm getting older, but I'm going to increase the size of the font. And we have like the main site. He likes to have like the description here. We're still, this is still a work in progress. We're trying to find the best way. And he added the recent additions on the main page. Maybe this will be moved on the future. And this is like the latest uploads to the site. And we have like 11K files, almost 12, and a total size of 20 gigabytes. Okay, and categories is like the folders where the files are stored. That is called categories. Okay, and here on the categories we have like all the tree when you can search the files on the different categories or different things that the programs does. So I have consolidated apps, development, games, information, server software, system, and utilities, just like the old hubs. The structure is like almost the same of the old hubs with some improvements when we needed to. When I took like, I don't know, like more than 6 years ago or 5 years to when I took over and tried to or reorganize hubs, we needed to create more categories, and these are the categories that we have now. Okay, and on apps we have like the different kind calculators, and we show all the calculators that we have for OS2. And each file, you can go inside each file, and now you can see a full display of the metadata. Now we have version, well, the author and vendor was always there, home page, the categories is the place where it's located. It's located on apps, calculators, the OS2 version that runs on it, file size, well, a download counter, and file type, and who uploaded and who approved it. Since we have like a batch process of uploading the files, a lot of the uploaded and approved you're going to see that is Jason Page or me, because we uploaded everything like this year on March, yeah. And the license, we also included a new metadata for the license, and we try to put like shareware, freeware, open source, or GPL2, GPL3 to give more information about what the software terms are. Okay, and we have description. Description is like the long description in the old hubs when the author of the software says what the software does and a little bit of how it works. Okay, and we have the download button there. Okay, and this is the view of the public user, one that is not logging to the site, and all they can do is like surf the site and download files. Then we have like the administrator tools. Now we have roles. Now I just quickly logged in with my ID. I'm an administrator. I have like several options. I'm going just to check the regular upload, when we can just grab the file to upload, put the title, the description, version, the author name, homepage. It's going to be like a staging category. When you upload a file, it's going to go first to incoming for a little while until the administrator approves or rejects the upload. For the moment, we haven't rejected anything because luckily of us, we still don't have spam on the site. Hopefully it will remain that way. Let's cross our fingers. And then we have the category where the software author can choose where it's going to put the file. Okay? And the compatible OS2 version, usually the new software, we made it for OS2 Warp 4.52 or ArcOS. You just put it there. If they have any dependency of any libraries, license, and any tags are more for the site, like development tool, like game, action, etc. So they're the tags more for searching. So this is the how the upload is working. And then we have like some administrators tools that is good now that we have the set of functionality for administrators. And when I can see the users that are registered on the site, I can see the approved files and also browse like any normal user. I can see the pending files and I can go to review and check all the uploads and go approving each one and also correct anything that is wrong on information. I can manage the site structure for locating files, and I also have some other tools that are interesting for quality of the site. Okay.
Martin?
Yes. Just go ahead with the questions. Yeah.
What you're showing us here is the back end, correct?
Yeah. It's the back end.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if someone also wants to help, and I can talk with them and also turn them into a collaborator of the site. Yeah, it's not like everybody's going to have access to this, but finally we can make like hubs with people involved, with more than one people collaborating into the site. Yeah, that's the idea.
I understand. Okay.
Okay.
I was just looking quickly at the site, and on the front end, there is something about you can only do 10 searches a day.
Okay, you're in the wrong site. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that. The URL here is hubs.os-2.in. Yeah, it's not like a regular domain. It's not .com, .edu, nothing of that. And it's the place where it's being hosted the site. It seems like hubsarchive.com that is made by Nathan made some kind of comeback trying to limit the access to the site. But I have been focused on this version of Hubs with JSON page that have like this extra functionality for administrators. Yeah, and I don't have any problem with the Nathan site. The more, the merrier, they say. Yeah.
Martin, it's Roderick here. I have a question for you. Have you ever heard from Nathan if he wants to give his website hopsarchive.com as a replacement? Not that we have two dead one archive that's being updated, because the Hops archive from him is probably not going to get updated anymore, or is it?
Yeah, the issue here is that no, I haven't heard from Nathan. Well, he since he told he was going to shut down the site, he put like the red banner on the site, and I say I completely understand his situation. I think his web hosting provider may be like a little bit abusive, and I completely understand his situation. So I start to look for alternatives, and Jason bring me this alternative. But I haven't talked to Nathan about that he made a comeback with the site and is now sponsored. But the philosophy on this site, on this new hub site, is to be more friendly with mirroring and try to. We're in the moment we're trying to have like the process for mirroring with other users to be more friendly, of course, and to be more. It has to be like more control. It needs more control because we have like too much bots and spam trying always to suck up files, and that's why we're trying to find a way of doing mirroring with more respect to the host provider. Yeah. Did I answer the question? Yeah.
Well, but it does. So you're saying that Nathan continues to run his own website, basically.
Yeah. He at some moment he decided to open again hubs, but with some limitations and with some sponsoring. That I'm fine with that. But I already, while I was desperate trying to find a solution, I already started to collaborate with Jason and move on this way. Yep.
Okay. Is somebody also talking to the people behind ec2soft.com or .org? That's the Hobbes archive to get it repointed to the new repository, the new Hobbes. That website is still filled. When you look for OS2 software, the EC2 soft website comes up pretty frequently, but it still either points to Hobbes or Hobbes archive.
Yes, he, as far as I understand, the site is Italian, and he is also checking the new hubs and also putting link to the new hubs. But it looks to me like the site he managed has like these static links, and eventually I don't know if he's going to change his links. For the moment, I haven't talked to the people on that site to see what is better for them. We talked like some long time ago. We reached an agreement to like share some content and move forward. But I haven't talked lately. Sorry, I have been very busy like trying to pull this off, and then we're going to talk with other sites to try to link also the search to the site. I already talking about linking. I already changed the OS2 World Wiki to link to these hubs, and also the IDM2 to link to this new site. It was very easy. I'm going to talk about it. Yeah, okay, we have time. It was very easy because on MediaWiki I made like a template with the name of the file provider server. So in just like 1 second or 2 seconds, I just changed all the links from all the OS2 World Wiki and from the IDM2 to the new hubs. Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah.
Keith Merrington here. I'm
Kate,
just looking.
hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm looking at the site, and of course I got confused when I looked for OS2 Hobbes, and I got the old site. Looking at the new one, I still see at the top Hobbes OS2 archive. So as a user, I'm wondering, how do I know which one I'm on if I'm not careful? It's not.
Well,
it's not
there's
obvious.
a difference.
Yeah. And secondly, there are a number of new features here I see, but I just quickly checked for one of my programs to see which versions you had, and you only have one. So how do we address the problem of getting you updated?
Okay, there are first the two sites are similar but different. Here you can see like Nathan's site, and you can see here how the new hubs works. First, you will see like you can surf the site on the categories, and you can expand these category menus. So you have to be aware that there are two different sites. Okay.
Sorry, I'm looking via my phone, and it looks again different from what you're displaying. I can understand that often as not. Desktop has a different layout, but then again, am I on the right site?
Okay, but you're on the right site, right? You're on these hubs right now, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also to address the issue, like since we have like some lapse of time since we took the backup from the from the from the latest version of Hubs. I think it was February, and we have like we took the backup of February and uploaded here. There are some programs between February and March, I think, that didn't get here, and there may be some mistakes also. So what we can do is like you can upload the files if there are not many, or you can contact me and try to see which ones are missing. Like, okay, for I just search for Kate to try to find your software. Yeah, we have Sigma here, and let me try to Oh, okay, we have a mistake here. I think is your last name with two N's or just one N?
It is with MERRINGTON, but I do use a slightly different name in my email address to avoid spam.
Okay. Okay, so your last name just have like one N at the end. Here I have one mistake that has like two N's. So just to show you also the administration tools here, I'm now logging as administrator. I can edit metadata, and it's Merrington with just one N at the end. Okay? Oh, sorry, I pressed something here. So I can change it just with one N at the end and save it. Okay? So
that's
we
correct,
need to
yeah.
talk,
I was just walking to the screen because it's so small. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me try to zoom in. So I can also, well, just for people to see, I can edit metadata, being administrator or being an editor. I can finally update the information here on the metadata of the file without re-uploading everything. Okay, just for people to see. Yeah. For example,
I'll cross-check that my
Let me know
files
which. Yeah.
are already on your system, and if not, I will upload them so we're up to date.
Okay, we'll upload them, or you can contact me if it's too much work. Let me know if I can help there.
No,
okay?
I'm trying to save you work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and just one question, Sigma, which kind of software is it freeware? Is it shareware?
Nearly all of my programs are shareware. There are a couple that are freeware, but I always put that in the description.
Okay, that's good. I just want to try to update this one, but no problem.
You want to buy?
Okay. What? Okay.
I said, you want to buy? No, Joe.
No, just to play the if it's freeware or shareware. I don't know. Sigma,
okay, no problem.
Okay.
Hey, Martin.
Yeah.
It's Doug.
Doug, hey.
If I understand the conversation that happened a minute or two ago, Nathan is re-put his version of Hobbs back up, and you have your version of Hobbs that's up, and so there's confusion between the two Hobbs. What if you renamed yours Hobbs/2?
Okay, that's a good thing. Let me talk to Jason about that. If we put it Hobbs/2 or some other name,
I mean, if I can see where it could be confusing if there's two Hobbs, and you can't. You don't want to get in a conflict with Nathan or anybody else. So.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I don't want to I was working on this because Nathan say that it's going to shut down. So yes, I tried to find an alternative, and we pulled this off. And when we pulled this off, I noticed that Nathan just back up with the idea of shutting down completely and make that. I haven't spoken to Nathan about this, but since we already moved on this, and I have like more features and more administrative tools, I'm moving like this way. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just it would be nice to have some kind of
difference. Yeah, some kind
so
of
that you could tell.
branding difference. Okay.
And I don't know if that's the right solution. Thank you for your work on this, by the way.
Oh, thanks. And well, I think maybe we should discuss this on the Stu World Forum, and see if something some ideas show up about how renaming this. Maybe hubs/2, maybe some other thing. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Probably do not completely abandon the old name, because it at least gives someone who has found an old URL and or the terms Hobbes OS2 archive search term to put into Google or whatever his perfect preferred search engine is, and somehow it should stay there with this name, but of course you should somehow differ from Nathan, or find some other way. At first thought about if he would sell that domain name or point it to your new site, so that in end effect we have only one active archive.
Yeah, with that, I can only say, let's see what happens with Nathan. Let's see if his idea works, and if he wants to keep going that way. And let's try to find something to don't confuse the name. I haven't tested which is the preferred which is the preferred answer that Google gives you when you try to search for OS2 file repository. And we are I was not even sure if this was going to be the domain site, the final domain site of the new hubs. But finally, Jason says, okay, let's go with this hosting and launch on this domain that is os2/dos.in. Okay, so let's see how this works out, and let's try to find some idea of how to different the two sites, so we don't have issues. Yeah.
Martin, if you're still looking for a domain name that looks slightly more sexy, I still have a domain name called hobbs.os2voice.org, but that was when I started work on my own repository. It looks a bit more normal than the current URL. What is it again?
Yeah.
It's
hubs.os-2.in.
In Dutch, we call that in verbal speech a tongue breaker. It's kind of a wobbly one to remember. So
Okay. You're right with that. Yeah.
Then we're running out of time.
Oh, we're running out of time. That's good. That's good for me, because I'm usually very quick. I'm just going to end this stuff, checking some administrative tools very quickly, and here I have some quality reports that told me which are the duplicated files with the size and the MD5. So we have that issue in hubs that sometimes you didn't know where to upload stuff and you duplicated things. So I have this. I have some report that has the same file, but the same file name, but different location. So that's also good to find. Okay, I have two software with the same name, but there are different things. One is Flip, that is a conversion tool for file conversion tool, and the one is another casino game. So it might be interesting to try to do something. And we have similar ones that someday in the future it will be good to merge, to don't have any kind of conflict. And I also have files with missing descriptions that I have like 121 files that I need to process. There are all the fonts that didn't have any kind of descriptions that I need to work little by little on that. So now I have administrative tools and very nice stuff to manage the site, and also to have other collaborators to help me out, and also try to improve the site little by little, checking the text, checking spelling, grammar, whatever they want, and also improve it very quickly. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to show. And let me just check if I have like, okay, I have other resources. Remember, I have the OS2 World Wiki. We have the ADM2 for development. We have the forum on OS2 World, and we have news on OS2 World. And I wanted to thank Jason Page for developing this site, and also having the time for improving it. And thanks to all for your time here at Warpstock. Thank you, Roderick. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jerome. And well, I don't know. Can you move the camera to see all the people, or is like? Oh, okay. Hi there. Hi. Nice to see you all. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm leaving. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Goodbye. Bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Alex Taylor. I think most of you know who I am. And I know this schedule, this presentation didn't appear on the website. I think there was a bit of a mix-up in terms of updating that. But I do have a presentation for you today. I was going to say this morning, but for you it's this afternoon. So I hope you enjoy it. I have to apologize in advance. This is probably a slightly less organized presentation than I usually do, partly just because of the subject matter. It's a little bit chaotic, and also because of various things, my time to do like the sort of preparation, like detailed script and run-throughs and so on that I usually do for these, I couldn't, and that's the same reason that I sadly could not be with you in Amersfoort today, which is I am actually in the process of buying a house and moving this month, so that kind of took away a lot of my time for travel. So I'm coming to you live-ish from Ontario, Canada, and I'm here to give you my confessions as an OS2 developer. And everything is coming through on the stream okay, Jeroen? All right, good. So what are my confessions? That's just kind of a silly title that I chose because I was trying to think, well, what can I talk about that I haven't already talked about? And I know, you know, oftentimes we will talk about in these kinds of presentations sort of the development projects that we're working on, or stuff that we're planning, or software that we maintain and release and so on. But I was looking through my my old files and my various hard disks and so on, and I realized that over the years as an OS2 developer, I've started an awful lot of programming projects that have just never seen the light of day. Usually they were never finished. In some cases they were finished, but they just were not useful to anybody else as far as I could see. In some cases, I kind of finished them like 90% and used them myself, but then by the time I got around to thinking, you know, I should polish this up and release it, it was too old to really be any good anymore. Good example of that, back in the noughts, the 2000s, I actually wrote a couple of front ends to ctorrent, which is a command line BitTorrent program. And a few people used it, but after a while, qBitTorrent and a few other things got ported, and it just wasn't really necessary anymore. So that project kind of fell by the wayside. A lot of these other projects kind of fall into that category too, in the sense that even if they were finished to the point where they're useful, they by the time they reached that point, they were just not really useful to the community anymore. So some of them are too old, some of them are incomplete. I confess, I never finished some of these. I am terrible at finishing projects that I start. If you want a confession, that's probably the big one. So you'll see some of the ones here that kind of do something, but were never really finished. You'll see a couple here that don't even do anything yet. They're just kind of proofs of concept or even just frameworks that I started to have an idea about and then never got around to finishing. And then there's some that are really just too niche to be useful to anybody but me. Probably won't be showing too many of those. Some of them I just thought were too silly to be useful. So I'm not by any means going to cover everything that I found. I've chosen a selection that I thought might be interesting to people to see. And a couple of them, I will point out, are not necessarily permanently abandoned. Some of these I do actually have on my list. Yeah, I'd like to come back to this and finish it someday. But again, we'll see. So that is essentially my confession. I start too many projects, and as a result, I never have time to finish all of them. It's probably a confession that a number of other developers, not just for OS2, but other environments could probably make as well. So any other developer out there who feels like I'm betraying a trade secret. Sorry. So this is probably the oldest program on my list that I wrote, and this one actually kind of works. This was before Keith wrote his excellent directory and file comparison program, which should tell you how old this was. I think I wrote this back in like 2005, 2006. And this was after I changed computers a few times, and I discovered that I, backed up or copied various versions of files to different places on my hard disk, or I downloaded the same file 3 or 4 times to different directories. And it was just becoming terrible to keep track of how many redundant and duplicate files I had. So I thought, why don't I just write a simple program that'll help me search a directory tree or even a whole disk and just find identical files that I can clean up. So at the time I was on a bit of a mythology kick, so I thought it'd be cute to call it SIF, which is short for Search for Identical Files, also the name of a Norse goddess. But it's written in VxRex, and it's very simple. It just takes a directory tree, which can be the root directory of a drive, and searches for files that are identical. And how do I define identical? Well, not by file name, because we can always rename files, not by date or time, because those can change all kinds of different ways. I look at 2 things. I look at the file size, and if 2 files have the same file size, I then do a checksum of both of them. And if they have the same checksum and the same file size, I will assume that they're identical, and I'll add them to the list of programs that I've detected as duplicates. So this is a screenshot here, and I'm actually going to give you, if I can get this to work, a brief demonstration of how this actually works. So this is a VM I've set up for this demo. So I've put, this is a useful one, and this is actually how I generated the screenshot. I've got GitHub, some GitHub repos on here. If I, oops. So this is the program. You can see, yeah, copyright 2006. It's very old. Sorry if the font size is a bit tiny. I'm not sure if I really built in a way to change that. Let me just try and drag something bigger in here for you. Yeah, all right. So what you do is you create a new search, and these buttons don't actually do anything yet, I don't think. They're supposed to be like a directory picker. So I'll just say, point it to my C GitHub directory. So that adds it to the search, and then you can choose to recurse or not. And then I say begin, and boom. Runs pretty quickly. It uses, I believe, the RexMD5 library to generate checksums. So every time I find files, a set of files that are identical, I group them together and I give them a colored icon of the same color. This is maybe not the most super intuitive way of presenting it, but again, I wrote this program mainly for me, so I wrote something that makes sense to me. So you can see these first 3 files all have the same white icon. That means they're identical. These 2 are identical with the yellow icon. These 3 are identical with the green icon. And I can do some things like delete the selected file, which I'm not going to. I can open the selected file. It just opens it in the default association. So in this case, yeah, it's your standard Git template message file, commit message file. And that is basically what SIF looks like. So make sure you take notes. There will be an exam later. And if anybody's curious, I've never published the source code that I'm aware of. Again, it's pretty simple. It's written in VxRex. Oops. Yeah, it's just, okay, so it uses this rex crc32 function, which I think is part of the RxMD5 library. Anyway, This is my first confession. Search for identical files. Again, maybe it's useful to other people, maybe not. It's not publicly available. If anybody wants to see it or play with it, I can certainly provide it on request. But yeah, I'll move on to the next one. Oh, as a complete coincidence, I just realized which mug I'm using. For my coffee, because that's very important, coffee. Oh, sorry. Can you see on my camera there? Warpstock Europe 2006.
It's like 10 pixels or so.
Oh, okay. Well. Anyway, IMAP-C. So this is one, I think I've provided this to a couple of people. Basically, there was a point where I was kind of interested in trying to figure out how the IMAP protocol could be implemented. So anybody who's not aware, IMAP or IMAP4 is a mail protocol that lets you, it's considerably more sophisticated than the POP protocol. Most modern mail readers actually do use and support IMAP because it lets you keep your email on the remote server instead of having to download it all, which means you can access it from multiple places. IMAP's been around for a long time. It dates from like the 1980s, but it's only become kind of mainstream more recently. But anyway, back when I was using PM Mail as my main email client, it was becoming more and more obvious that not having IMAP support in PM Mail was a problem. And I was kind of thinking, what would it take to add an IMAP protocol to an email reader? So I just decided to write a very simple app in VxRex. A lot of these, by the way, are written in VxRex. It's a very useful tool for just sort of quickly prototyping and or building a graphical program. But yeah, I wrote a very simple IMAP mail client in VxRex that actually works. And well, kind of works. It works to read mail. I don't think you can actually write mail or anything with it. But basically, I had some IMAP mail accounts, especially when I went into grad school. I got a couple of IMAP accounts for my graduate school, and PM Mail couldn't access them. So I wanted some way to be able to read messages from OS2 without having to fire up like Thunderbird or SeaMonkey or something. Yeah, that's what I came up with. And again, I was kind of thinking maybe I would, if this was successful, maybe I could use what I learned here to add IMAP, to help add IMAP support to PM Mail. I actually did do some work on that. I never got it quite working because for some reason I ran into a race condition in PM Mail with this logic, and it never got quite off the ground. And then sadly, I had to sort of stop using PM Mail because this and its other limitations just made it not feasible for me to keep using it, unfortunately. Although it was and still is a great email program. But anyway, this is another example of a program in my programs graveyard, and I'll kind of show you, if I can, how it works here. Now, I might need a minute because I haven't actually tested this on this VM, so I'm not sure if S-Tunnel is quite working properly. So this does require S-Tunnel because one of the things about IMAP is you have to use an encrypted connection for it. Most servers simply will not allow you to connect. Most IMAP servers will not allow you to connect without SSL, which is a very good thing because if it was not an encrypted connection, you would literally be transferring all of your email across plain text, across the internet, and your user ID and your password. So I'm going to start S-Tunnel and see if this works. So I'll show you the S-Tunnel conf file. Anybody who's not familiar with S-Tunnel, it's basically a local proxy that lets you redirect some local host address through an SSL pipe to a remote server. So, yeah, I've set up a test IMAP account on one of my local servers here. And that's, yeah, it's just localhost 993 is the local address of it. And then the actual server is this IP address port 993. So if I want to open a connection, I would connect to localhost 993 and ftunnel would redirect that to the actual server. So, and this is the same way that PM Mail actually does encrypted connections. It uses ftunnel. Ftunnel. So here we go. Totally sure what that message means, but I'll try this. So IMAP-C, this is the application. Again, pretty small. I don't know if you can make this out. I might try and increase the font size for you there. And then, okay, so I'm going to connect to localhost, port 993, connect. And I find this tends to be very slow, even when it works. I don't know if it's a factor of my VM or if it's just something on my network here. More have some coffee I spilled while I'm waiting for this to connect. And while I'm talking, while I'm waiting, let's just, I'll show you the screenshot here. It's in the slides. It's a little small. Sorry about that. Basically, when it connects, it goes to the host. It gets a list of all of the folders on the remote server. Then it populates an index of messages in that folder. And you can double click on a message to open it in a window. At the bottom here, there's actually a transcript of the IMAP protocol conversation for debugging purposes, which I like to see because, again, I was using this to learn how the protocol works. You can open messages, you can delete messages, you can move messages from one folder to another, I believe. You cannot compose messages. And what's more, it doesn't cache anything locally. So every time you open a folder or, it doesn't cache anything to disk. Every time you connect and so on, it has to download all of the folders and all of the message indexes each time. So this is certainly not something that you would want to use for a real mail server, but it is an interesting little toy for, here we go, for connecting to just testing the IMAP protocol. Okay, so you can see at the bottom, well, you probably can't read it here, but yeah, so this is the IMAP. What's that? Yeah. So this is just a transcript of the IMAP protocol exchange. You can see it's sending list commands and so on. So if I look at inbox, I can double click on a message. You can see it's a multi-part MIME message, which doesn't help me very much because it's encrypted, but this is what the raw email message looks like. And if it was if it actually had a text part in it, oh, there we go. Yeah, you can see how slow it is because it's not caching anything. It just has to download all of the messages. So again, this is what the email looks like. And I could also I think I can delete messages from here, but yeah, there's nothing in the trash, and that's it. It's yeah, 2004 is when I started working on it. 2011 was the last update. Set up. Yeah, you can turn the console off and so on, and that's, yeah. There we go. That's a very simple IMAP client, and the source code is pretty simple. It's just, you know, this much VXRX code. and a separate thread for doing the socket receive. The source code is available on request. I think I have actually uploaded it to a couple of different places. Again, anybody wants to play with this program, I can make some of these available on request or by arrangement. But for now, I'll move on to the next confession. And this is one of the sadder ones in my my confessional here. So this wasn't really a project, it was just an idea. Back when I started playing with the idea of updating PM mail, I just kept running into more and more issues with the whole concept of it, that to get PM mail or anything, any other sort of PM-based OS2 application up to what I would consider the standards of a modern email client would be so much work. On the other hand, we've got Thunderbird, we've got SeaMonkey. They are huge, some would say bloated applications. Not everybody likes their user experience. So there have been various arguments made by various people over the last little while, over the last number of years, that we should have a Qt-based email application available that supports modern email standards. There's a couple of OS source ones. Trojita comes to mind. I had been playing with the idea of using what I'd learned writing that IMAP Rex client to write something in Qt. And the appeal of doing that is, like with a lot of my projects, I can design the UI and so on to work the way I like and not have to accept how like Mozilla wants me to use an email program or something. But unfortunately, this really never went anywhere. I even had a cute name for it, My Mail. It's a pun on my mail and mime, which is email. Yeah, it's a nerd joke, I know, sorry. But yeah, I got as far as creating a basic application frame, and it absolutely does nothing except, yeah, it's just a UI mockup, sadly does nothing. The idea in this case would probably have been to use an open source IMAP protocol handler. There's a couple. Again, the project went nowhere. Like a lot of these projects, I wouldn't say I officially abandoned it. It's just the odds of me picking it up are pretty slim at this point. So this is one of the sadder broken graves in the graveyard of buried ambitions, as you might say. And so yeah, that's basically a summary of this one. Still on the, hey, wouldn't it be nice to update some of these old programs topic. And I've talked a little about this one in the past too. I started a project to see if I could develop some Unicode versions, like Unicode enabled versions of basic PM controls, so that it would be possible to take a PM program like PM Mail or something, for example, and just swap in versions of like the text area control or buttons or static text or whatever that can actually natively display Unicode text, maybe rich text and that sort of thing. I actually did a not insignificant amount of work on trying to get a multi-line editor, which is the text editor that a lot of, well, PM Mail, for example, uses it to display emails, and it's your standard text display control in Presentation Manager. So I got partway through writing one that actually does display text natively in Unicode. I even put together like a back-end text editor engine for it based on, was it the gap buffer model, which I adapted from some, I think it was some white paper on how to design text editors. Unfortunately, again, this has kind of stalled as of the last many, many years. This one is actually in my GitHub, so the source code is out there for anybody who wants to use it. My GitHub is, I can put that up later in the presentation, but my GitHub name is Altsan, A-L-T-S-A-N, and this particular repository is called OS2U controls. And as you can see, there's nothing in here except BMLE. And here is a test app that actually uses it. And let me change the font size here for you. Now this is going to have to be a Unicode font because it uses Unicode text display. So I'll set to that. And then, okay. So this is basically your text editor. It supports tabs. It supports word wrapping. Unfortunately, it does not support word wrapping very well because it has problems detecting the wrap boundary of text when you're like mixing different character sets. This string is a good test of a mix of single byte and double byte character sets. And as you can see, it really is having trouble figuring out where the actual wrap boundary is. And this is one of the main reasons this project didn't actually get any further than it did. It uses GPI's Unicode support. GPI is the graphics rendering engine in OS2 presentation manager. The GPI support in Unicode, while it exists, it is really buggy. It requires a hell of a lot of coding around. I just found myself having to add in more and more workarounds, more and more special cases for handling, like edge cases and so on. The required effort just kept snowballing. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is a nice academic exercise, but if I actually want to write a program which can use native Unicode display and rich text and so on, Qt is just so much easier to use. So, yeah, if anybody wants to play with this code or even maybe pick up on it, it is in my GitHub, as I say. So for the curious, by all means, go look at it. If you want to even fork it or contribute to it or whatever, be my guest. I haven't touched it in ages, but yeah. Okay. Now, anybody who's seen some of my work in the past knows that I have a bit of a thing for fonts. So I've developed a number of fonts, both bitmap and TrueType. And in the course of working on fonts, I've occasionally found it useful to write a couple of utilities that help me just like preview fonts, debug fonts, sort of examine them just to make sure that they work properly or to see how something is implemented internally. So these are both Presentation Manager native PM programs, mostly. This first one I call Font Previewer. It's very simple. The idea is you associate this executable with font files. Then you can double click on a font. It opens it in this full like preview window where it displays a range of different sizes. It actually supports bitmap and outline like TrueType PostScript fonts. In concept, it's actually very similar to the font preview in the X Workplace font folder. It is a standalone app, however, doesn't require X Workplace. It has a little more flexibility in that you can filter the results. You can change the preview text on the fly. You can, if a given font name has both bitmap and TrueType versions, as some of them do, you can show either or both. And in actual fact, I think after I wrote this, I contributed some code to X Workplace so that the font folder would support bitmap fonts, because I don't think it did before. So here is, where's my VM? Here it is. I don't need STUNL anymore. This one is in font prev. Actually, what I will do is I will create a program object for this, and I will preview just to show you how it's kind of get it to work. I'm going to associate it with star.fun, star.tdf, star.pfb, star.otf. I don't think I have any of those, but whatever, and star.ttc. Those are your typical font file extensions. Now, if I just run it, I can select a font that's installed on the system. You know what? I screwed that up. This is not the program I associate with font files. This is the one that only displays installed fonts. It's the other program I'm going to show you that is supposed to be associated with font files. So let's just select a font here, Droid Serif, for example. Now, for bitmap fonts, it shows all of the different sizes that are defined. For outline fonts, it just shows it at 12 point. So it's not super sophisticated, but I can change preview text here. Let's select a different font. Select a bitmap font. I'll go with Warp Sans. So here are all the different sizes of Warp Sans that are installed. Notice that it shows both the low resolution and high resolution versions, which most other font viewing applications will not show. And this was very valuable to me when I was actually building some of these fonts, because you have to build them in both resolutions, 96 dpi and 120 dpi. But when you install them on the system, you can only see the current resolution. So it made debugging it kind of tricky, because I'd have to like switch the resolution and then reboot to see them. But with this, I could just view all of them, which made it very handy. So that's Warp Sans. I'll show you what happens if I select a font that actually exists in both outline and bitmap versions, like Courier. So the Courier font, there's a bitmap version, which exists in 3 sizes in OS2. There's also a PostScript outline version. So this shows all of them. And again, very nice for just getting you a cascading preview of the different sizes of any given font that's available. And again, it shows all of the versions. I can turn off the outline version if I don't want to see it, or I can turn off the bitmap versions if I don't want to see them, and so on. So again, this is useful if this is the sort of thing that you do, like working with fonts in this way. If not, it's probably not very useful, which is why I don't think I've ever released this publicly. Again, it's very simple. It's like, what, less than 500 lines of C code, plus like a resource file. Yeah. So that was Font Previewer. The next one is Font Info. This one, so this is the one that should be associated with font files. And this is the one, this one is actually available in my GitHub. It's, I think it's part of my font tools repository. So what this does is it opens an outline font. And by that, I mean a vector-based font. So TrueType, OpenType, PostScript. You don't have to, the font doesn't have to be installed on the system. You literally just open the font file, and it'll show you a dump of relevant information about what's in the font, including font name entries, the CMaps, which is the character to glyph mappings in the font that it contains. And then you can preview individual characters based on the selected CMap and the index number. So I'll show you how that actually works. So this one, I believe it's in OS2. Yeah, so this is info, OS2 font info. Oops. I'm going to change this and just associate the, so this is my font info viewer. It's associated with several different types of font file. Now, if I just run it, you know, I can open a file, browsing. So this should say when I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote this much more recently in 2015. So I can open a font file. Let's go to my TS fonts directory, which is where most of them live. Let's take a look at, I don't know, Bookman Light. This is a TrueType font file. Again, sorry about the tiny text. That. Oh. Okay, unfortunately this window is not resizable because I was too lazy to write dynamic resizing logic. But these are all of the name tables in the font. That's a TrueType font concept. If you're not really familiar with what that means, don't worry too much about it. These are the character maps in the font. So there's an Apple Roman table. There's a cross-platform Unicode table. And then there's the Windows format Unicode table, which is the one almost everything uses. And the glyph index is basically just the lookup index into this table for the glyph. So glyph 65, they all start with ASCII. So glyph 65 is basically always going to be uppercase A. If I were to go to, say, 260, you start getting into the more funky characters here. And you can see there'd be differences if I select different I don't know if I don't recall exactly what the correct numbers in the Mac Roman table are. Actually, I think they don't go above 255, so let's say 240. So yeah, in the Apple Roman table, 240 is an F, whereas in Windows it is, okay, it's also an F. Yeah, a lot of them are the same. In some cases, they may interpret glyphs differently. But yeah, this is a nice way of just opening a font very quickly, seeing what encodings it supports, seeing what its names are, and seeing what the glyphs inside it look like. And if I go to my PS fonts folder, let's take a look at heuristic irregular. Yeah, you can see basically much the same sort of thing. I can look at, it supports PostScript fonts too. Now, PostScript fonts don't have name table entries, so the top's blank here. But it still has a basic lookup table, so I can, I can display the different characters. This is obviously Helvetica, which is a font everybody knows them. I won't say loves, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Obviously useful for me debugging my own fonts. This is Workplace Sans, which is a font that I designed. And again, I don't know, what's a good, yeah. So I've got a bunch of characters in here. Useful to see what a font contains and what the glyphs look like. And yeah, if you're developing fonts on OS2, this is a very handy app. If you're not, which is probably not many people besides me, probably not super useful, but the source is on my GitHub site if anybody really wants it. I will say, actually, the glyph preview here does not use presentation manager rendering. This is linked to the FreeType 2 library, so it actually uses FreeType to render this specific window. So it's nicely anti-aliased, among other things. So that is my font info and I believe that concludes my slide on font tools, font toys, tools, whatever you want to call them. All right, QB font, a bitmap font editor. This is something else that came out of my frustration with problems I faced trying to build fonts, bitmap fonts in OS2. I also thought it'd be nice if I maybe could do it on other operating systems like Linux or something, because I switch between multiple operating systems all kinds of times. You probably noticed that I am running OS2 in a VM here. I just have to switch between various different platforms constantly. It's what I have to do. But anyway, besides the idea of having a cross-platform bitmap font editor, the only way to actually create OS2 bitmap fonts at the moment is using the IBM font edit program from the OS2 toolkit. And anybody who's ever tried to use the IBM font editor will probably understand what I mean when I say it is not good. Horribly buggy. It only begins to cover it. It's also cumbersome, kludgy to use, and just super unstable. If you don't if you don't know the right trick of creating a font, you're liable to end up with a corrupted font file that can't be salvaged by anything and stuff like that. So it's bad. So for a long time, I've been like, I just want to write a new bitmap font editor. And the nice thing is, if I use FreeType, which supports all other kinds of bitmap fonts, it could support other bitmap font formats as well. Now, I do have a cross-platform parser that I wrote for the OS2 bitmap font format, so it's not that hard to add that to a program like this. But yeah, it's I just thought it was a nice idea, and I started work on it, and I have not abandoned it. I just haven't done any work on it for about 3 or 4 years. It's written in Qt4. I already have a working like editor control here with a bunch of like little features that you can do to modify and edit and manipulate the bitmap image. It doesn't actually open or parse actual fonts yet. It doesn't save anything. The source is available on my GitHub, like a lot of these programs. Let me pull it up, and I'll just give you a quick. It's called QB Font, because I'm not very imaginative when it comes to naming programs. Yeah. So this is your basic font window. You've got a little blue line indicating where the baseline would be. So if I want to like write a very bad script A there, oops, I missed the baseline. Well, I can, okay, I'll shift the whole thing down a bit. Shift it down one more. Oh, actually, I want it reversed. So let's try flipping it. Yeah, there we go. I can also, I think I've implemented most of these. I can delete a column. No, I can't. Don't remember if I've implemented. No, okay, so I haven't implemented the insert and delete functions. If I implemented the narrow, wider ones yet. Width, narrow both. No, okay, apparently not. So some of these are not yet finished, but you can see some of the ideas that I've been doing here, like, you know, compare it to another glyph. The idea is you could actually overlay it with another glyph and see where the differences are. And then do various row and column operations. I don't think I've implemented undo support either. Revert obviously doesn't do anything because I don't have anything to save files yet. And 2023, so I mean, that's actually not super long ago by my standards. So I can't technically call this abandoned yet, and I hope it isn't. I do definitely want to pick this up and keep working on it at some point. But another thing I would actually point out is that it's this bitmap edit control could be repurposed for a lot of other things too, like a general bitmap editor potentially. I actually got some of the basic ideas from it out of like a programming textbook for Qt. I just modified it a heck of a lot. It may even, yeah, I don't know. I think I accredited that in the README, but oops, keep forgetting I don't have. Yeah, so this is going to be LGPL because it's Qt. It's basically the free version of Qt, so that's what you have to use. So sources on my GitHub, and I hope this is something that you may actually see more of in the future. And yeah, brings me to the last thing that I have planned to show you, which is Password Manager. A lot of people these days are big on storing their passwords in the cloud. I'm not saying you can't make a case for that. I'm one of those people, I'm always a little bit paranoid about storing very sensitive information, especially like all of my passwords in the cloud, because I don't necessarily know how good the encryption or whatever on some of these cloud services is. So I tend to keep all of my passwords in local apps. And The program that I still to this day use for managing most of my passwords is the OS2 program eAccounts. However, eAccounts is no longer maintained. It's written in, I think it is actually written in VxRx, which is fine for me because I use that environment a lot. But it does mean it's not particularly cross-platform. Not everybody has access to it. Also, eAccounts depends on an implementation of the Blowfish encryption library, which is actually closed source, which is a problem, I would say. And there's a bunch of other stuff that I would like to see in this program. So be able to support multiple password databases instead of just having the one. The ability to load a password database maybe from a network drive or something so that I can keep it like on my NAS instead of on my hard disk, a password database. So that, you know, when I'm on another system, I don't have to like VNC into my OS2 system just to run eAccounts. So I thought, why don't I just write a Qt program that is backwards compatible with the eAccounts password database? That way I can keep my existing passwords database, but I can use another program that I can add features to it. Maybe I can build it for Linux so that I can use it on Linux or other platforms. This one, the reason I put this last is because this one is actually being developed. Like this is under active development by me. It's going slowly because it's one of many things that I work on, but it's promising. And I would say, stay tuned. I will show you actually what I have got so far. And this is, right. Okay, or actually, you know, first of all, I will show you eAccounts. So eAccounts is, anybody knows this program? I set up basically just a test database, which has a couple of categories in it. I'm sorry, the writing's very small, you can't really see it, but I've got 2 categories and a couple of different password accounts in each one. So this is written by Frank Brokat, and I believe the source code is available somewhere, possibly on Hubs. I checked the website a while ago. It doesn't seem to be active anymore. But so if this is my password database that I can read in eAccounts, objective 1 in my new program was, can I read and parse this password database in the program that I'm writing? So this is what QAccounts looks like. Again, the font size is tiny. I'm sorry about that. Notice it's copyright 2026. It's LGPL 2. New LGPL. So open source. It is not. It will be open source. I have not released any versions of this yet, so neither the binaries nor the program source is available. Once I do release it, source obviously will be provided. So in this case, rather than just starting up with the password database, you can actually just open any password database anywhere. So I'm going to open an accounts file, and I'm going to go to my eAccounts directory, and I'm going to open the eAccounts password database. And I'm going to enter my very secret password, which is totally not password. And then you can see I've got my categories here, and it parsed it successfully because it may be a closed source encryption library, but it still uses the Blowfish encryption algorithm. And I had to do some rather clever analysis to figure out exactly how it was setting up the parameters for Blowfish. But once I got past that hurdle and was able to decrypt the file successfully, yeah. So this is my account, test account 1. It's got the name, the user ID, password, location if applicable. It's got any notes here. On some of these, you can also attach files to, you can embed files in an account, which is one of the nice features of e-accounts. So I support that as well. Again, tiny text, you probably can't see it on the screen, but I have attached a file ID.diz from e-accounts just as an example here. So I can see that I've got a file name attached to this account here. I'm going to click the preview button, and that is the contents of the file that's attached. In most cases, this is going to be like a key file or something. So it can be anything. It's just freeform text. It's probably going to be like a key file that you have to copy and paste into something, or it might be an SSL certificate or something like that. But I can view this in plain text. I can also switch to hexadecimal view here, and I actually can increase the font size for you there. So that is that. Do I actually have, don't believe I've set up fonts selection in the main window, sorry. So I have to deal with the tiny text. But yeah, the next thing that I need to do before I can actually make this generally usable is the eAccounts database. I've got the encryption working now. I still need to implement the file format parser. This database is actually an OS2 INI format. So what I'm thinking of doing is seeing if I can borrow some code from the X Workplace Helpers, which has its own like ini file handler, and see if I can adapt that to be cross-platform. Since this program is open source, I don't believe there's any license issues with doing that, but that's going to be my next step on this journey. Once I have a standalone, well, actually, this program is using, if I look at, well, I don't have the source on this VM, but this program is actually using the X Workplace Helpers to parse the INI file. It's not using the OS2 core file functions. So all I really have to do is modify that code to be cross-platform, take out the OS2 specific dependencies. Then I will have this program able to be compiled on, built and run on Linux or Windows, or I don't know, maybe even a Mac or anything. So it could be a true cross-platform accounts manager. If I can get to that point, the next step would be to be able to open remote files. So my ultimate goal with this is to be able to store my password database in a remote location that I control, not a public cloud, but maybe my NAS or something, and then have this program that I can run on any system, any VM, on anywhere on my network, or even VPN in from elsewhere, then open that same single database on any operating system, access it, access my passwords, copy it, and Bob's your uncle. Actually, I have a lot of uncles. I don't think any of them is named Bob, but you know what I mean. So that is the finale of this presentation. I don't know if anybody has any questions or wants to see anything else, but I think we're at an hour, so I'll pass that back to Jeroen, and you can tell me if there's any questions waiting for me.
I don't have a question, Alex. They say geniuses think alike, but fools seldom differ. Funnily enough, in my presentation about AI, I talked about a program called Password Safe, which is available on Windows and Linux, and the source code is available, and I'm going to try using AI to port that to OS2. So who knows, we're both working on a similar project, and we may in fact have two programs for our users, which will help them using passwords.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I unfortunately have not really been able to watch the presentation so far because they've mostly been in the middle of the night here. I've started watching some of the streams on YouTube, but it'll be a while before I catch up. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I did use AI to help me reverse engineer the implementation of that blowfish encryption, because it did something slightly unorthodox with the initialization vectors that I was having trouble figuring out. And AI actually, if you know how to use it, it's kind of like you go in and you say, I have this problem, let's work through it. And you ask a series of questions and it runs tests for you, comes back. You say, this worked, this didn't work, whatever, let's try something else. And it's actually very helpful as a diagnostic tool in some ways. What I especially appreciated about it actually was there was a point where it was trying different things and not able to quite figure out why the encryption routines it was giving me couldn't successfully decrypt my sample file. So it started running a series of tests saying, I think this might be the problem. And it ran through it for a while, and then it said, that didn't work, let me try this. It ran through that a bit more, and said, that didn't work, let me try this. And then after a while, it suddenly stopped partway through and said, hey, I'm going in circles. I'm going to try something different. And then it walked me through a new series of questions using a different method that actually cracked the problem. So I was very impressed that the AI was self-aware enough to realize that it was going in circles and stop. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues surrounding AI, but as a tool, it can be very handy. And in fact, I was talking to my team lead at work the other day. We were talking about AI, and he said he sees AI as kind of, it's a tool that's a bit like the web. The last 20 years, you can do your job without ever using the World Wide Web, but it's going to be difficult. The next 20 years, he figures you can do your job without using AI, but it is going to be difficult to avoid. But it's a tool. It's not something that does your work for you. It's a tool that helps you do your job. And I think if you look at it in that respect, it can be very useful. Yeah. So yes, glad we don't differ in that respect, Keith. There's also, in the sense of this idea of the password database. And the other thing that I really mentioned with this idea is I do want to potentially add other encryption formats besides just the one that eAccounts uses, other file formats eventually, so that this could become a more versatile cross-platform general use password manager that can use centralized encryption databases without relying on third-party clouds. So yeah, good luck with yours. I look forward to seeing where yours goes, and hopefully one of us will succeed in getting something that's that does what we want and is useful for people.
Let's hope so, Alex. Which AI were you using?
Claude.
Claude, okay. I'm using ChatGPT, but we're coming maybe from different areas. I also seem to remember that Password Safe also happens to use Blowfish. Not 100% sure, but I seem to remember I read that somewhere. So let's hope we all get successful.
Yeah, sure.
On an AI note, for the people that are using AI here, I was just speaking to somebody who's working on a project for his work to make a AI engine that works in Object-Rex that talks to the French AI engine Mistral. So that's still early days. It's being developed for his work on Windows. So we might end up with an AI accessible agent on Arca OS, but that's very preliminary stages. What is it? Well, yeah, he's trying to do it in Object-Rex on Windows. So if the code is portable, who knows? But that's early days. He needs to finish it by Thursday, but it's targeted at Windows. But it would be handy if it's portable to OS2. Then you don't need a web browser to talk to a AI engine. So, yeah. Any other questions for Alex?
I do actually. You know what? Let me just. Well. That is my GitHub account, I believe. Let me just double check that that is actually the right formatted URL. Yeah, it is. So this is my my GitHub account, and not all of these are on here. Some of them are. Actually, I guess I have a question for the room. out of all of the abandoned projects, or comatose, or niche stuff that I showed you, is there anything in here that caught anybody's interest that maybe I should be encouraged to pick up on again, just out of curiosity? And don't worry, I'm not. My feelings aren't going to be hurt if nobody says anything. I realize these are all pretty oddball and niche projects, but just thought I'd.
It seems that somebody's curious. I've given the microphone.
Yeah, the identical file finder I thought was interesting.
Oh yeah, I believe Keith has a much more sophisticated app that can do something similar, but it's maybe not quite the same thing. Is it Keith? I think so.
I've got another thing for you that you might want to consider looking at so that you can abandon it. That original IMAP client that you made in VxRex will probably just stay the way it is. But you know that we have an alternative IMAP client now on OS2. That's the Trojita port that Greg did. It's maybe not well tested, but at least we have a alternative. Thank you for doing that, Greg. I've actually ran it a few times, and I'm able to open emails with it and send email with it. So it did crash a few times, but you know it's Qt5. But so we do have a alternative.
Yeah, and that actually is one of the reasons that my program kind of got put on the shelf, is Trojita got ported, so the need for it was less. Also, sadly, I did in the end bite the bullet and switch to using Thunderbird for email. It's just, yeah, sometimes you can't win them all. And honestly, Thunderbird is not too obnoxious. They've simplified the UI significantly, so I don't find it as irritating anymore as I used to. But yeah, but no, I do hope Trojita is successful, and I certainly think that we need projects like that and ports like that on OS2. So thanks to Greg for that. Definitely.
Are there any other questions for Alex? No, it doesn't seem so. Alex, thank you from this side of the globe for your presentation, and hope to see you in person at Warpstock, either in the US or in Europe maybe next year.
We'll see. Travel is a little awkward right now this year, but we'll see. Anything's possible.
Okay, take care, Alex. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.